to combat racism, xenophobia, and intolerance facing ANHPI communities. Beginning his first week in office when he issued a presidential memorandum leveraging the power of the federal government to stand against this hate. The president also signed the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act into law, signed an executive order to reestablish the White House Initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, and funded critical research to prevent and address xenophobia against AA and NHPI communities. So without further ado, I will let the band take it from here. They're gonna each speak. We have an interpreter somewhere here. There you go. Good to see you. So they'll each speak first, and then the interpreter will come back up and interpret what they just said. They're not going to take any questions. They're just going to come here and give some words, and then we'll start the briefing. Thank you. Go ahead, Jess.
Thank you, Karine, for your kind words. And hi, we're BTS. And it is a great honor to be invited to the White House today to discuss the important issues of anti-Asian hate crimes, Asian inclusion, and diversity.
네, 오늘은 AANHPI 헤리티지 먼스의 마지막 날입니다. 저희는 AANHPI 커뮤니티와 뜻을 함께하고 기념하기 위해 오늘 백악관에 왔습니다.
네, 최근 아시아계를 대상으로 한 많은 증오 범죄에 굉장히 놀랍고 또 마음이 안 좋았는데요. 이런 일이 근절되는데 조금이라도 도움이 되고자 오늘 이 자리를 빌어 목소리를 내고자 합니다.
네, 오늘 저희가 이 자리에 올 수 있었던 것은 저희의 음악을 사랑해 주시는 다양한 국적, 언어, 문화를 가진 되게 팬, 아미 여러분들이 계셨기에 이 자리에 올 수 있었다고 생각합니다. 정말 감사합니다.
네, 한국인의 음악이 서로 다른 언어와 문화를 넘어서 전 세계 많은 분들께 닿을 수 있다는 게 아직까지도 좀 신기하고 네, 신기한 것 같습니다. 그리고 이 모든 걸 연결을 시켜주는 음악이란 건 좀 참으로 훌륭한 매개체가 아닌가 싶습니다.
나와 다르다고 그것은 잘못된 일이 아닙니다. 옳고 그름이 아닌 다름을 인정하는 것으로부터 평등은 시작된다고 생각합니다.
네, 우리는 모두의 각자의 역사를 가지고 있습니다. 오늘 한 사람 한 사람이 의미 있는 존재로서 서로 존중하고 이해하기 위한 또 한 걸음이 되기를 바랍니다.
And lastly, we thank President Biden and the White House for giving this important opportunity to speak about the important causes, remind ourselves of what we can do as artists. Once again, thank you very much.
I'll provide an interpretation in Korean and English. 우리말과 영어로 통역 간략하게 전달드리겠습니다. 남준 씨는 친절한 소개 감사합니다. 방탄소년단입니다. 오늘 백악관에 초청받아서 반아시아계 혐오 범죄 그리고 아시아계 포용 그리고 다양성에 대해 논의하는 자리를 가지게 되어 정말 큰 영광입니다. Jun said today is the last day of the AANHPI Heritage Month. We joined the White House to stand with the AANHPI community and to celebrate. Jimmy said we were devastated by the recent surge of hate crimes, including Asian American hate crimes. To put a stop on this and support the cause, we'd like to take this opportunity to voice ourselves once again. Job said we are here today thanks to our army, our fans worldwide, who have different nationalities and cultures and use different languages. We are truly and always grateful. Jungkook said we still feel surprised that music created by South Korean artists reaches so many people around the world, transcending languages and cultural barriers. We believe music is always an amazing and wonderful unifier of all things. Shiga said it's not wrong to be different. I think equality begins when we open up and embrace all of our differences. V said everyone has their own history. We hope today is one step forward to respecting and understanding each and every one as a valuable person. 마지막으로 남준 씨가 중요한 문제에 대해 함께 이야기하고 우리가 아티스트로서 무엇을 할 수 있는지 생각할 기회를 만들어 주신 바이든 대통령님과 백악관에 감사드립니다. 감사합니다.
What does it mean to you to come to the White House? We're gonna go. They're not gonna take any questions, but thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
BTS 화이팅!
감사합니다.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Oh. All right. Okay. Yeah. Brian, I don't know how you're gonna. Okay. I don't know. I'm excited to hear what Brian has to say. Okay. Next up, we have Brian Dees, our Director of National Economic Council, who just came out of the meeting with the President and the Fed Chair and Secretary Yellen. And so he is joining us today. So thank you, Brian, for making the time.
Okay. So I get to go home and tell my kids that BTS opened for me. I did not expect that when I woke up this morning. And I know that you're all here to talk about trimmed mean inflation, and you're as excited about that as you are for them. So thank you for hanging in here. I just wanted to provide a little bit of context to the economic focus of the day. As you all know, the President just concluded a meeting with Chair Powell, along with Secretary Yellen and myself. It was a very constructive meeting focused on the outlook for the U.S. and the global economy. And I won't go into detail of the private meeting other than to reinforce that the President underscored to Chair Powell in the meeting what he has underscored consistently, including today, that he respects the independence of the Federal Reserve and will provide the Federal Reserve the space and the independence that it needs to tackle inflation. Also today, the President published a op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, and I will just give you a little bit of context for that piece and how we are thinking about economic priorities here. So 4 quick points. The first point is there is no question that the global economy right now faces a range of significant challenges. Inflation is first among them. It is a global challenge. We learned, for example, today that inflation in the euro area hit an annual rate of 8.1%. And it is a challenge that the President understands is hitting American families and creating anxiety and also economic hardship. As he said, he gets this. The second point is that as the President is making fighting inflation his top economic priority, it is really important that we recognize that we can take on inflation from a position of relative economic strength. That is true if we look in the global context. Few countries are better positioned than the United States to make this transition and navigate this transition that the President talked about today from historically strong recovery to more stable, resilient growth. If you look, the reason why we have those economic strengths is the strength of our recovery, the historically unique strength of our recovery. At the center of that is the labor market. You all know the statistics. I won't belabor them, but suffice it to say we have the strongest labor market in modern history, which is not only creating job opportunities to move into new careers with better pay for millions of Americans, but it is also pulling more people into the labor force. And in fact, we've seen the most rapid labor force participation rebound among prime-age workers of any of the last 4 recoveries. And we're also seeing that in terms of the strength of household balance sheets as well. Savings is up, debt is down, bankruptcy filings remain near pre-pandemic lows, eviction filings are 30% below their pre-pandemic levels. All of these are sources of economic strength from which we can now focus on bringing prices down. The third point, this was an important piece of this, which is that the President's talking about this transition and growth as we move through this transition, our economic growth should look different than it has in the historic recovery phase. We've run this first leg of the race at a very rapid clip. That has put us in this strong position relative to our peers. But this is a marathon, and we have to move and shift to stable, resilient growth. And that's why the president's outlining the plan that he wrote about today, which is something that he has been focused on here for some time now. Core to that are the three elements that he flagged. The first is nominating quality people to the Federal Reserve. He has done that. He got an opportunity to speak with Chair Powell today. Strong, incredibly credentialed bipartisan group, and we are hopeful that the Senate will move to confirm the last of his nominees, Michael Barr, without delay, and giving the Fed the independence to operate, which is critically important, particularly at a moment where inflation is elevated, but cannot be taken for granted, which is why the president is reinforcing it publicly today. Second is lowering costs. How can we make things more affordable for typical families during this transition period? And the third is lowering the federal deficit, which will help to ease price pressures in the economy. That is, on those second and third, that is the focus, the president's economic focus, the focus of our economic team. Many things, many of the steps therein are things that we can do on our own with executive action. There are also places where we need Congress's help and to work with Congress. But that is our overarching focus when it comes to the economy right now. So that is the context I want to provide. Happy to do whatever Karine tells me to do.
Brian, one thing that one trade-off to fighting inflation may be a change in the unemployment levels. What level of increase in unemployment does the White House see as acceptable in order to obtain lower inflation?
Well, I think that one of the things about this transition, and we are in this transition, one of the things about having the strength of the labor market recovery that we have had to date is that we are uniquely well positioned to actually move toward more stable labor market gains or gains more consistent with periods where we have had this level of unemployment in the past. And we can actually take on inflation without having to sacrifice all of those gains. And so you see that, for example, in the high rate of available jobs per worker. That can, and you've seen that start to moderate somewhat. So one of the ways that, for example, businesses can reduce their demand if that is necessary is to bring down the number of open jobs they have available. But that is, I think that the bottom line is we have a very strong labor market, and that is not only a source of strength for millions of people who are getting jobs or getting jobs at higher wages. It has helped to strengthen household and family balance sheets as well. So part of the reason why we have seen savings elevated and we have seen credit card payments and other debt service payments come down to historically low levels is because of the strength of the labor market. So that positions us relatively well going into this period of transition.
Just one follow-up. The president emphasized, and you just emphasized, his respect for the Fed's independence. Is he happy with what the Fed is doing?
Consistent with respecting their independence is respecting their independence. So what I would say is that he has confidence in the people that he has nominated. He is grateful to the Senate to confirming 4 of his 5 nominees, and he is focused on actually giving them the space to make those independent judgments. It certainly is the case that the president has identified inflation as his top economic priority, and he agrees with the assessment that the team at the Federal Reserve is making and that Chair Powell is making as well. But part of providing that independence is to is to stay out of the business of commenting on tactics, timing, or otherwise on the monetary policy side. So you can expect that from us going forward.
Okay. A follow on that. If he's confident in the team that he's put there, is he confident that they will be able to deal with this enormous challenge, which is taming inflation and not putting the economy into a recession?
Well, I think that what the president is and what we are very confident in is that we can approach this challenge and we can focus our efforts on bringing inflation down without having to sacrifice all of the economic gains that we've made because of the unique position of strength that we are in. Because of the progress that we have made over the course of the last 15 months, we are now uniquely well positioned to do that.
Does the president think that the Fed needs to revise or review its modeling and forecasting techniques, given they pretty badly misjudged that inflation was not actually transitory?
That falls squarely into the category of things that we will leave to the independent judgment of the Fed.
Phil in the back and then Kelly over there.
Thank you, sir. You noted that inflation remains the president's top priority. I'm wondering a little bit about the intersection of that priority and the president's plan to forgive as much as $10,000 in student debt relief for families making as much as $300,000. Some analysis says that this would cost taxpayers as much as $250 billion, and of course that money's not going to be dumped into the economy all at once. But I'm curious how you see this affecting consumer spending, because presumably some of these folks, rather than servicing their loans, might go buy a new phone or decide to buy that car or go on the vacation. So are you confident that that student debt relief program would not have a negative impact on inflation?
Yeah, so I'd say a couple things of that. The first is that notwithstanding some of the reporting, the president hasn't made any decision on that policy, and so I won't get ahead of any decision or any particular program or plan that has been speculated about. Broadly speaking, if you look at those who hold student debt, principally people who went to public colleges, principally people who, when they were going to college, had 2/3 of which their family income was less than $50,000 per year, and many of whom are struggling economically in a position of having to repay that debt. When you look at the question of the macroeconomic impact, I would say two things. One is it is a function of a number of those policy design parameters, including the repayment. So today there is a moratorium on repayment of student loans, and so the resumption of payments would interact with any potential debt cancellation from a macroeconomic perspective, number one. And number two, if you look at the impact of almost any proposal, because of the point that you made, notwithstanding the cost of any proposal, is the economic impact of any proposal would be across the course of years or a couple of decades, and so the impact on inflation in the near term is likely to be quite small. But again, because the president hasn't made any decision, and we're not talking about a specific plan, I won't speculate specifically, but I think most of the analysis suggests that the near-term impact would be pretty small.
As you're putting together sort of this outreach today with the op-ed, with the message that you and other colleagues have been putting out there, is implicit in that sort of acknowledgement that you have not been telling the story of the economic picture in a way that has been satisfactory to the president?
I think what this underscores is actually an ongoing commitment by the president to both train his focus on what is the most important thing for the economy and to communicate that as well. So I would point you back to the President's State of the Union, where the president said that my priority is lowering costs and lowering the deficit. And I think what this president has tried to do in every stage in this historic and unique economic recovery is to effectively communicate to the American people where we are, to give it to people straight, but also to lay out clearly his plans, his priorities in terms of what he wants to see done. And so we are now moving into a phase which is really a transition, that transition that he spoke about. And so what he has been doing for the last couple of weeks, what he will continue to do is try to help make sure that we're communicating clearly to the American people what that means and also what his plans are, and also that he is prepared to work with anybody, Democrat and Republican, to try to make progress on that, but also highlight that there are differences between his approach and others, and that's important for the American people to understand as well.
What is the expectation today as you advise the president, or his expectation about how long prices will be at these high levels, 40-year levels, how long inflation will be here?
Well, there is uncertainty, and I will leave the predictions to forecasters. I think you and others have seen most major forecasters out there and their projections, most projecting that we will see moderation in inflation over the course of the year. What I can say and is important with respect to, for example, the op-ed that the president wrote today, is that the president has a clear approach and priorities with respect to tackling inflation. And the more progress that we can make on that plan, the more progress that we can make in lowering costs and making things more affordable for families right now, the more progress we can make in building on the historic deficit reduction we've already seen this year, then the better off we'll be, the better positioned we'll be to actually see that moderation happen more quickly. So that's our focus. Our focus when we're thinking about policy, particularly fiscal policy, is how can we make more progress on that front, understanding that there are a lot of predictions out there.
Just a couple more, Josh.
Thanks, Brian. Chair Powell has said there are limited tools that the Fed has to deal with supply shocks, like what we saw from Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the lockdowns in China over the coronavirus. Given that limitation, do you believe the U.S. is well insulated and protected against future supply shocks that could cause prices to rise, as we've seen with gasoline? Or do you think additional action is needed with Congress in order to provide that protection?
Well, I would say a couple things. The first point that I made and underscored is we do face serious global challenges right now. And the supply chain disruptions, the ongoing supply chain disruptions emanating from COVID and China most recently are significant. Likewise, the implications on the energy market of Russia's invasion of Ukraine are significant and ongoing. And so absolutely, those are significant global challenges. They are affecting energy prices and food prices globally. They're affecting supply chain distribution systems globally. That is point one. Point two is we in the United States are better positioned to actually navigate through those challenges than almost any other country, in part because of as I've said already, the strength of our economic recovery, in part also because of the work that we have done, for example, on the supply chain side over the last 9 months of consistent, focused effort working with all different parts of our supply chain. We now see, for example, the fluidity, what's known as how fast containers can move through ports, for example, and get from a ship all the way to the end, that we have seen significant improvements in that fluidity across time, which puts us in a better position to navigate potential new supply shocks, but they pose ongoing challenges. Third, there are places where we could absolutely use Congress's help, and we could use it urgently. And so when you think about some of the core challenges we have with respect to supply chains, they circle back to the issue of semiconductors. And we remain extremely vulnerable to the supply chain fragilities associated with semiconductors. Notwithstanding everything we have been through in this pandemic crisis, we still don't have a dedicated supply chain office within the federal government that is funded adequately to actually take on, map, and aggressively go at these challenges. Now, we've made historic progress notwithstanding that, but we could use Congress moving to provide the resources and the funding and the authorities that are in the bipartisan innovation bill that is now in conference. So that's one place where we are hopeful, working very closely with Congress in an effort to try to get that done, and that would give us more tools to keep building our resilience to these types of global shocks.
Josh, Catherine, and then
Thank you. Since you were in the meeting, can you say whether the president expressed any view about what the Fed's path is right now? Chair Powell has talked about 50 basis points each in the next two meetings. Did President Biden weigh in at all on whether he thinks the Fed needs to go faster, slower, just about right at all in the meeting?
So I'm not going to read out any specific components of the meeting other than to underscore that the president did in private, as he did in public, underscore that his commitment to giving the Fed the space to conduct monetary policy independently without political interference.
Do you think that the Fed has moved too slowly by saying it's their responsibility? The implication, of course, is that they're holding the bag to the fact that inflation is at the highs that it is at.
I think by saying it's their responsibility, what the president is doing is acknowledging and underscoring the pivotal role that the Fed plays institutionally, and that monetary policy plays in the process of bringing prices down. That's a core mandate that the Fed has, and that he not only respects, but is willing to underwrite. That independence matters, and being insulated from political interference matters. That's not an approach that the previous president took to this issue. It has not been an approach that presidents in the past have taken, and this president has underscored and is underscoring that he will do that. And I think that that's what you should take away from his acknowledgement of the responsibility that the Fed has.
Did tariff reviews come up at all, or can you give us the latest on that? The recalls, of course, that easing tariffs on imports from particular countries could be one measure that would cool inflation here in the U.S.
I know it's an issue of discussion. I don't have any update to share today.
Just following up on Josh's question on tariffs, is there any timing you can give us on a decision specifically on the China tariffs?
Nothing specific on tariffs today.
I wanted to ask you about budget reconciliation.
About the what?
Budget reconciliation. What do you view as the right revenue to spending ratio to combat inflation?
Well, I think what the president has said and is underscoring today is that we have a real opportunity to lower costs and lower the deficit. And that we can actually do those two things together in a way that will create a more competitive economic environment and actually increase incentives for businesses to invest in the United States by pairing tax reform with measures to lower costs for families. So I'm not going to get into the specifics of the conversations around reconciliation, other than to say the president really does believe that the right approach here is to focus on measures that would lower costs and help to make things more affordable right now for families, and to lower the deficit. And that he believes that that's the right way to address inflation, and that's probably the most significant thing that Congress could do right now to actually help to accelerate the process of bringing prices down, to Kelly's point.
Last question.
About a year ago, you stood here at the podium along with other officials talking about inflation as transitory. Now a lot of the focus from the White House and the broader administration is on messaging, as Caitlin and Kelly pointed out earlier. Was it a mistake to use that phrasing, and do you think it gave Americans a false sense of how long these rising prices would be here for?
Look, I think that this has been an uncertain and unexpected and recovery period, historic in many ways. And so I think that our focus right now is on what is the right policy to bring prices down without sacrificing all of the economic gains that we have made. And I think that one thing that is unambiguously the case is that over the course of this 15 months, the strength of this recovery that we have had in the United States has not only helped millions of people and millions of families across the country, but now positions us well to address what is a global issue. And when you look out across the world right now, there's also no question that inflation is a global challenge. The 8.1% figure that I cited for the euro area, if you look back over the last 6 months, headline euro area inflation is 9%. And that is because we know that principally the drivers of that are the convulsions and the convulsive impact of having to shut the economy down and restart the economy, and compounded now by the supply effects that Josh asked about with respect to Putin's invasion of Ukraine. So that's our focus. That's where we're focused now. And we think that the policy choices that we make here going forward will be consequential in how quickly and effectively we can navigate through this next period.
But that talks mostly about the structural factors. I guess when you talk to Americans, when you look at polling, they say their biggest concern is rising prices, which I think part of that stems from the prolonged period that we've been in. And so I'm wondering, as you focus on the messaging, have you learned lessons from that, where you discussed it as transitory, and now, 15 months later, we're still here?
Look, I think that what the president has done with respect to communications has been to consistently explain to the American people where we are and where we need to go, and that continues to be the way that he approaches this issue, and very much from the perspective of what it feels like to sit around a dining room table or a kitchen table in this country, because that's his lived experience, and that's the way that he approaches these economic policy questions. And so he understands that right now the top issue on people's minds is prices at the gas station, prices at the grocery store, and he's made very clear, and he's communicating very clearly that that's his top economic priority, and that we can address this from a position of strength, and that we can make this transition to stable growth without sacrificing all of those gains if we make the right decisions going forward. And so that's what he will continue to do. It's certainly what we'll continue to do in serving him.
Brian, if I could quickly follow up. If the president is communicating effectively, how do you explain and make sense of his low poll numbers?
Look, I will just say this, that the president always tasks us to focus on what are the right policy decisions and the right policy choices to try to advance an economy that has been his animating feature of what he wants to get done for years, which is how do you build an economy from the bottom up, the middle out, where working families have more opportunities. We've made historic progress in that direction. We have made historic progress in that direction because of some of the hard and difficult policy choices that this president has made. But we now have to address this issue of rising prices. The president has been focused on that for some time. We need some help in working with Congress on some of the issues that we just discussed. And I think that, if we can deliver, I think what the American people are mostly want to see is that we can actually move the ball forward, and that we can actually make some progress in things that matter in their daily lives. And it's why you've seen the president so focused on things like reducing the cost of internet, building more affordable housing to reduce the cost of housing, because we get that those are practical things that are impacting people in their lives. And the more progress we can make on that front, that's what people want to see. That's what people want to see is progress, and so that's where we're going to keep our focus.
Why is the president so hesitant to face us from behind the podium, just like you did?
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Brian. Come back soon. All right, that's all I have on for the topper. Oh, we could no. Go ahead, Josh. Why don't you kick us off here?
Great. Thanks. One sec. Two subjects. First, could you offer some clarity on what President Biden meant when he said we're not sending Ukraine rocket systems that could strike into Russia, since even short-range missiles could fly over the border if they're fired nearby? And is the White House concerned that sending a rocket system could be considered escalatory?
So let me first say that those systems continue to be under consideration, so I don't have anything to preview on anything specific there. But as the president said, we won't be sending long-range rockets for use beyond the battlefield in Ukraine. But right now, I don't have anything to preview for you today.
Secondly, could you update us on the status of where Mexico's president stands on going to the Summit of Americas? It's the first time we've hosted since 1994, and what does this controversy say about the U.S. relationship with Mexico?
So I don't have anything to share or anything to confirm about anyone's attendance. We don't have a final list. Once we have a final list, we'll be sharing that. Look, the president is looking forward to hosting, as you just said, the first one in a long time. It's the 9th summit of the Americas in June, just a few days away, and values the opportunity for leader-to-leader, civil society and private sector engagement to advance our goals and find common ground. He views the summit as an important opportunity for leaders and key stakeholders to come together to address the core challenges facing the people of the hemisphere. No other part of the world impacts the security and prosperity of the United States more directly than the Western Hemisphere, and we are joined not just by geography, but also by economic ties, democratic principles, cultural connections, and familial bonds. I don't have a list to confirm or any invites or decisions that's been made. That's up to clearly the individual leaders.
Hello.
Hello.
Happy Tuesday.
I feel like it's been a long time.
Just to follow up on that, has everyone who's going to be invited to the summit been invited?
We're still working through some of the invites. We just don't have a final list. And we have said, once we have a final list, we'll share that.
Can you elaborate on the president's promise earlier today to meet with lawmakers on new gun laws, when or how that would happen, and whether there are any preconditions on when or how he'd meet with them?
So the president look, he's been calling for action for some time. What we have seen, in particular these past 2 weeks with these mass shootings in Buffalo, and we saw the president go to Buffalo and grieve with the family there. We saw the president and the First Lady just this past Sunday go to Texas to grieve with the parents there. And it is heart-wrenching what we're experiencing. This is an epidemic, the gun violence that we're seeing across the country, and we have to do something, and we have to continue to make efforts to act, to protect our kids, to protect people going to the grocery store. The president has made this one of his priorities from the first day that he walked into this administration, and now he's calling on Congress to act. And so he is hopeful. He wants to make sure there's action. The White House, we have our White House team that is in constant communication with Congress on an array of issues, including this one, because again, this is a priority, and he wants to continue to make sure that he continues to voice his concern and what needs to be done next. Look, the president has done everything that he can from the federal government. We are looking at other executive actions that we can possibly do. This president has done more executive actions at this point than any other president, but it's not up to him alone. He cannot do this alone. This is what you heard him say to Kelly O yesterday. And so Congress needs to act so we can have federal law legislation on the books so we can stop this epidemic that we're seeing across the country.
What other executive actions would be under consideration if you just said he's done everything he can do?
Well, we're looking to see what else can be done, to be clear. We have done, as you've heard us say, we have done the ghost guns. The stemming of the flow of ghost guns is something that the president has done through executive action. If you look at ghost guns, they are not regulated. There's no serial number connected to them. They are the weapons of choice when it comes to terrorists and criminals. This is something that we have seen more and more pop up across the country, and so he put out an executive order through the Department of Justice to make sure that we do everything to stem ghost guns being out there. He's taken more efforts to take on gun traffickers and make sure that they are held accountable. He used the American Rescue Plan, which, by the way, no Republican voted for, to make sure that we put police officers back in the streets, who many of them lost their jobs during the COVID pandemic. And so there's $10 billion that we announced that cities have used to make sure that they are using that funding, or said they have used that funding for gun violence. These are the actions that this president has taken. And now he's calling on Congress to take action. He's calling on Congress to take a vote so that we can protect families and
He
communities.
said, no, nothing's scheduled yet. Nothing.
I don't have anything more to preview. He said yesterday himself that they are looking at other options on executive actions. But again, he's done more than any president at this time.
One other thing I wanted to just clarify for you, something he said on Friday during his address at the Naval Academy. The president was born in 1942, graduated from the University of Delaware in 1965. In his address, he said he was appointed to the Naval Academy in 1965. Was he? Was it in 1965?
So I did not hear that part of the speech, so I would have to. Okay, I did. I missed.
A lot of writing about it.
I hear you. Ed. I hear you. I have not. I need to read it myself and just go back and see what you're talking about exactly. I can't speak to it right now.
Thank you, Karine. Canada is making it impossible to buy, sell, transfer, or import handguns anywhere in that country. Would President Biden ever consider a similar restriction on handguns here?
So, we'll leave it up to other countries to set their policy on gun ownership. The president has made his position clear. The United States needs to act, as I just laid out. He supports a ban on sale of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines and expanded background checks to keep guns out of the dangerous hands. He does not support a ban on the sale of all handguns, to answer your question.
Okay, thank you. In some places in this country now, a gallon of gas costs more than people on the federal minimum wage are making in an hour. What does the White House want these people to do? Just stop driving to work?
Look, the president understands what it feels like. Deese just spoke about this. Brian Deese was just here and talked about how he understands what it means for people who are sitting at their kitchen table and see gas prices go up. He understands that feeling personally, or seeing prices of groceries go up in the grocery store. This is something that he is inherently aware of, and he's doing everything that he can. As Brian Deese was just here, his economic advisor, one of his top economic advisor, laying out what he is planning to do or continue to do to make sure that we lower costs at the gas pump. Brian also said that we are dealing with an unprecedented time with global challenges that we have never seen before. And that includes clearly the pandemic, that includes Putin's tax hike that we're seeing this past couple of months, that has had an effect on gasoline prices. $1.50 went up since Putin has amassed his troops on the border of Ukraine. These are real, global issues that has led to this moment. But the president is doing everything that he can to make sure that we address this issue.
And you just mentioned Putin a few times as a reason for recent inflation. Do you guys think that any part of inflation this year is because of President Biden's spending plans, or is it all Putin's fault?
Well, what I can say is we are, and Brian just spoke to this, we are at a historic place when it comes to the economy, when it comes to unemployment being at the lowest that we have seen in some time, when it comes to the president creating more jobs in his first term, his first year, than any other president, more than 8.5 million jobs. Now we're going to a place where we're going into transition, where we're going to see an economy that's more stable, that's more steady. So that's because of the American Rescue Plan that the president signed into law, that no Republican signed or voted for, I should say, and all of that work that he's done the first year has led us to a place where there are more jobs out there, more jobs are being created, that we are in a place where we're seeing economic growth. Now, and also, as I've stated, this is an unprecedented time with COVID. This is an unprecedented time with the war. And so that Putin has created and started on Ukraine. And so we have seen, data has shown us since these past couple of months, since the war, we have seen an uptick on gas prices.
So I guess the next question would be, does President Biden take any responsibility for his policies potentially contributing to inflation?
His policies has helped the economy get back on its feet. That's what his policies has done. When we talk about the gas prices right now, this is indeed Putin's gas hike. This is what we have seen in the most recent months of what we've seen at the gas pump. And so that is a fact. We have seen about 60% increase in the past several months, and because of the amassing and his invasion of Ukraine. And so the president, his goal right now, and what he is frustrated about, is what the American people have to go through, and what they are trying to deal with as they are around their kitchen table. So that is his focus right now. Go ahead.
The president has talked about understanding from his life experience those difficulties, economic hardships, and so forth. Does he consider it a crisis for American families that prices are at this 40-year high?
He understands the hardship that people are going through. He understands how difficult it is for families. He understands that. That's why he has done everything that he can and taken steps in many different ways to make sure that we lower cost. We announced new actions to give farmers the tools and resources they need to boost production and lower food prices and feed the world. High-speed internet for tens of millions of Americans. We announced new steps with the private sector to lower those prices. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office found that the deficit fell by $1.5 trillion this year, and it actually fell even more in most regions.
Is it a problem? Is it a hardship? Is it a crisis? What is it that people are facing?
We're just in a difficult time right now with this inflation. That's why he's doing everything that he can. Look, his op-ed, he talks about this explicitly, about what he knows the American people are going through. And he laid out what it is that he's going to do to really fight against inflation. So it is something that he is aware of. This is clearly, right, as president, is something that is a priority to him. That's why he made sure that he rallied allies and partners around the world to release 1 million barrels of oil per day from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and that has been something that started for 6 months, in addition to an additional 60 million barrels of oil from other country reserves. That's for gas, to help with gas. The administration has allowed E15, which uses homegrown biofuels, to be sold this summer to help as well. And also he announced administration actions to save hundreds of thousands of families hundreds of dollars per month by fixing the Affordable Care Act's family glitch. So these are the things that he is continuing to work on and make this a priority. And that's why one of the reasons he wanted the American people to hear directly from him, hence the op-ed that came out.
Okay. Back on the issue of gun reform, so you mentioned the limitations that the president is facing. He also has been
he
blunt
said this yesterday himself.
There's only so much that he can do, that much of this is in the hands of Congress. But in Texas over the weekend, the president came face to face with a crowd that was demanding that he act, chanting, do something. And the president said, we will. Given the limitations that he is facing, how can he make that promise? What makes him so confident that this time around will be different?
So, as I've said, our team is in close contact with key members of Congress on negotiations. And when the president when it's helpful, he will certainly engage. But look, what we're talking about is popular. It's something that the constituents want, right? When you think about 88% support background checks on all gun sales, just 8% oppose. When you think about 84% support a ban on firearm sales to people reported as dangerous to law enforcement, just 9% oppose. 69% of support banning high-capacity magazines, just 22% oppose. 67% oppose banning assault-style weapons, just 25% oppose. This is from a poll last week from Politico Morning Consult. Reuters had a poll as well on that same day. 84% support background checks for all firearm sales. 70% support red flag laws. So these are things that, if you think about the senators and congressional members, these are things that their own constituents support. And so what the president is going to continue to do, as he's done from the first few days that he walked into office, is to ask Congress to act. And so we're going to continue to have those conversations. He's going to do everything that he can to make that happen. We have to stop this gun violence epidemic that we're seeing.
But these measures have been popular for some time. I mean, that's not new to this most recent massacre. So What is the president seeing, if anything, that makes him confident that this time will be different? I mean, we've heard him say that he thinks everyone's getting more rational about this. What has he seen from Republicans that gives him that sense?
Well, right now, as we know, there are bipartisan negotiations happening today. It may have happened already. I know there was supposed to be a Zoom call that was being led by Chris Murphy. And so, you know, it is important. That's what we want to see. We want to see steps being taken so that we can get to a resolution, a solution here. We cannot continue having this epidemic that we're having with gun violence. This is not okay. And what we're asking Congress to do is to vote. Vote again. I just said this. Vote to protect our communities. Vote to protect our children. Vote to protect our teachers. Vote to be able so that people can safely go into a grocery store and not worry about being killed. And so the president's going to continue to speak to this. He's going to continue to use, you know, the platform that he has. But again, he has done more on executive action in his first year than any other president has, in particular at this point.
How would you gauge his level of confidence that that vote is actually going to happen?
Look, we're going to continue to try. I cannot, you know, I can't speak to how people are feeling in Congress. That's something that they have to answer, or where they are with the process. What we're going to do is do our job from here and having those conversations. As I mentioned, his team is talking to folks on the other side about negotiations, and we're going to continue to call for action.
Can we come back to the back? I'm right here.
Thank you so much. I have a BTS question and also a Taiwan question.
A BTS question?
Yeah,
Okay.
first of all, they've been here for a few hours, just wondering if they're filming a music video on site or anything like that. And also any substantive policy recommendations to the president about combating discrimination and hate crime.
Well, right after they were here, they did go to meet with the president. Clearly, I don't know what conversation was had. So usually we try to keep those conversation private. You heard from them directly about how important it was for them to use their platform to be here to talk about issues that matter to them, in particular the anti-Asian hate that we have seen across this country these past few years. And so this was an important moment for them. I spoke to them before they came out. They were thrilled to come out and make sure that you heard directly from them and why they were here. I don't have much more to share. As you know, they're having a meeting right now with the president.
So moving on to Taiwan, Senator Duckworth is in Taiwan today, and China has sent 30 overflights to Taiwan. Is this seen as a threatening move? And can you just illuminate, you know, what Senator Duckworth is doing over there, what the point of this mission is?
Yeah, I cannot speak for Senator Duckworth. You would have to reach out to her office. I don't have anything to say on why she's there.
Something you see as threatening?
It's something that we're monitoring. I don't have any comment on that at this time, but clearly these are things that we keep an eye on.
Can I ask you a question from the back?
Thank you so much. The president said yesterday that he believes Senator McConnell is a rational Republican. Senator McConnell said today that the group of lawmakers that are talking about guns in the wake of Uvalde are talking about the problem, which is, quote, mental illness and school safety. Does the president agree that that's the problem here?
So, look, when the president said that, he believes that there are some rational Republicans in the Senate who can come together and work on a bipartisan bill. And Mitch McConnell is one of those folks. He does not believe, and we've talked about this. He's talked about this. You know, we are the only country that is dealing with gun violence at the rate that we're dealing, and other countries have mental health issues. So what's the problem here? And so the problem is with guns and not having legislation to really deal with an issue that is a pandemic here in this country. And so you know, that is not his focus, obviously. And when it comes to schools, and I don't know what he said specifically about schools. I know there's been conversation about hardening schools. That is not something that he believes in. He believes believes that we should be able to give teachers the resources to be able to do the job that they're meant to do at schools. And this is something that he's been focusing on since he was a vice president. So those are two things that he does not agree on. But look, he thinks there's a way to potentially come for senators to come together and Congress to come together. They need to act, and that's what he's going to continue to call for.
Even though he disagrees with the top Republican in the Senate on what the problem is here.
I mean, look, I think that what the president is going to continue to do is call for Congress to take action, is to call for Congress to move forward and deal with this epidemic that we're seeing across this country. And so he's going to leave it up to Congress to do that. He's going to step in when needed. But again, our office here is in regular contact on negotiations.
And you just said that the president will get engaged with Congress on these talks when he believes it's helpful. Does he believe it's helpful right now for him to be involved directly in these negotiations?
When the time comes, he will get involved. He spoke to this yesterday. What we're going to continue to do is call on Congress to act. And again, our offices here, our different departments here are in constant communications and with the negotiation process that's happening.
Karine, can you confirm that the President Chief of Staff, Ron Klain, is leaving his position after the midterms? Can you confirm that?
No.
Can I ask you a second question?
Go ahead.
Karine, a follow-up on the long-range rockets question. Does the United States not want Ukraine to launch attacks into Russian territory, despite the fact that Russia is obviously launching attacks on it?
I mean, the president spoke to this yesterday. I don't have anything more to add. First of all, we don't have, it's under consideration. I don't have anything more to say to that. But again, we won't be sending long-range rockets for use beyond the battlefield in Ukraine. So the president answered that yesterday.
Switching gears to gun control and to the meeting with the New Zealand Prime Minister today, the president mentioned what New Zealand has done on this issue. What does he think, or what does the White House think the United States can learn from New Zealand on guns?
Look, I think they had a very good meeting. They clearly spoke about gun reform. In the meeting, he actually wanted to talk more about what the New Zealand Prime Minister has done on gun reform in her country, and so he wanted to hear more about that. I don't have anything more to read out, but it is something that an agenda item that came up in their meetings, and he's always open to listen. But then again, we have to just remember that we need to act. Congress needs to act. It is the time to act now. And that's what the president's going to continue to call for. It is something that he has worked on since he was a senator, as a vice president, and now as president. He has taken action as a president to make sure he can do everything that he can to address gun violence, and now he's calling on Congress to deal with banning the banning of assault weapons, and also background checks, expanding background checks. Those are things that they can do. It's popular. I just laid out the polling and what the polling showed. This is what their constituents want them to do, is to act. And so that's what we're going to keep calling on them to do. Okay.
Thanks, Karine. Following up on Keelan's question about the president's involvement, you said he would engage when he thinks it would be helpful. Does he think it would be unhelpful right now for him to engage in those negotiations?
No. What we're trying to say is that there are conversations happening right now. Right? There's a Zoom call, a bipartisan conversation happening right now. So we're going to let that process go. But at the same time, we're going to continue to call for action. He directed his team to look at additional ways for executive action, so that doesn't stop from us on our end. But he can't do it alone, and that's what we keep trying to say here. Congress needs to take their step to make action.
And then just one follow-up again on the comment that he made about there are rational Republicans. As a candidate on the presidential campaign trail, he often said Republicans would have an epiphany after Trump was defeated, that they would come to their senses in his words, and work with Democrats on certain issues. Many Democrats that you talk to say that that is an outdated view of the modern Senate, that the partisanship has increased significantly. Does he still believe that there are 10 Republican senators willing to vote on some measure of gun reform? There's criticism that that is the view that Mitch McConnell and others are rational Republicans, given Mitch McConnell's long and well-documented history of blocking any sort of vote on gun control throughout his leadership of the Republican Party.
What we're saying is that's what their constituents want them to do. That is what, regardless if you're a Republican or independent or Democrat, you have a bipartisan opinion out there from constituencies, from American families, from the American public that wants Congress to act. 90% of gun owners support universal background checks. That's 90%. 84% of Republicans and 80% of NRA members support background checks. That's what we know. That's what the data shows us. That's what we need to do, is for them to act so that we can make sure that our communities are protected, that we save our communities, that our children are not going to school feeling unsafe. So that's what we need to make sure.
What does the president think the reason is that Republicans are not voting for some of these bills? If you're saying they're widely popular, where does the president believe the disconnect is between the Republican leaders?
That's for them to answer. They have to answer to their constituents. I just laid out what their constituents wants to see. That's for them to answer. That's a question that they need to go to their constituents and answer why they haven't moved forward on common sense gun violence reform. That's what we're asking for. Yeah.
This is a question I was hoping to get to Brian Deese, but I'm hoping you can help us understand as well. Earlier today, Larry Summers told the Washington Post essentially that a soft landing seems, in his view, particularly unlikely. And we heard Brian suggest, I think, a rather rosy picture of being able to move out of this inflationary period. I guess I want to understand from you all, what makes you so confident that a soft landing is possible, and should we be anticipating as a public that there will be a rocky economic period coming forward? I mean, I guess I just want to understand what makes you all think.
Look, and this is what Brian Deese set up here, and I think he would say the same thing to this question, is that we are doing everything that we can to deal with what the American public is currently have in front of them, right? With these high gas prices and inflation, and we are taking every step that we can, taking this very seriously to make sure that we bring down inflation and we deal with inflation in a way that the American public feels this. And we feel that if we are able to do that, continue with the 4 steps that the president talked about in his op-ed today, that we will get to a place where the prices can come down and we can deal with inflation in a real way.
And so I guess, the outlook, though, is that a recession, when you look at inflation historically at this level, a recession is naturally followed, you would say, within 2 years. And so why would this time be any different?
Well, as we have said, we're dealing with a transition, right? We're dealing with an economy that has really bounced back. More than 8.5 million jobs have been created. We've seen unemployment go down, and now we're in the transition period where we're going to be in a place where it's more stable and more steady. And so that is our focus. That's where we are currently, and that's where we're going to be moving forward to.
Final question.
I'll take one question.
Yeah, thank you. The gunman suspects in both Buffalo and Texas were 18 years old. Would the president's support or be open to raising the minimum age for purchasing a gun to 21 years old? This is something that Congressman Kinzinger, a Republican, said would be a no-brainer on Sunday. And so it seems like something that would have maybe out of the gate some bipartisan support. Does the president support that?
Well, I'll let the president's words speak for himself. He said last week that an 18-year-old should not be able to be purchasing a gun, an assault weapon, that we saw this 18-year-old do in Texas, and so I'll just let his word stand for itself.
And so he would sign such a bill into law if it were passed.
I'll just let his words stand for itself. I'll take one more. I'll take one more.
On the rocket systems, can you talk at all about how does the U.S. balance the need to help Ukraine without putting the country at risk of a direct conflict with Russia?
I mean, again, we don't have anything to announce at this time. What the president said stands as of today. I don't have anything more. It's under consideration. I just don't have more to share on that.
Guns, Karine, on Saturday, gun control advocates are marching in D.C. and cities around the country. Will the president take part in these gun control events in any way?
Wait, can you say that again? I missed the first part.
Is doing an event in D.C. and around the country on Saturday. Will be
this coming Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or it's Saturday. Yes. And is it Saturday 11th? I'm sorry, I don't know how many dates. June 11th. He's doing it on June 11th. Will the president take part in this in any way?
I don't have anything to preview for you about his schedule this weekend. Okay.
Thanks, Karine.
Thank you.
Thank you.